The black market of station Kepler 9 existed in the forgotten spaces between bulkheads, where lighting flickered and air recyclers hummed just loud enough to mask whispered transactions. Raven had walked these corridors for 3 months, her boots silent, her expression neutral. She'd learned quickly that humans were a curiosity here, a novelty species from a backwater planet. Most aliens saw her kind as soft, weak, bound by primitive emotions. They had no idea how wrong they were. The market sprawled before her, stalls cobbled together from salvaged ship parts and stolen cargo. Vendors hawked their wares, banned weapons, neural implants, and worse. Raven's dark eyes scanned the crowd, searching for what had brought her here. Trafficked cubs from the Solari species, taken from colony worlds and sold to the highest bidder. The Solari were feline-like beings, small and vulnerable in youth, their fur marked with constellation patterns that glowed faintly in darkness. The Galactic Council had laws against such trafficking, but laws meant nothing in places like Kepler 9. Raven found the stall tucked in a corner behind contraband crates. The dealer was a Kreshtok, chitinous exoskeleton, for arms and no conscience. Behind him, in a cage barely large enough to turn around in, sat a Solari cub. The cub's fur was twilight purple with silver spots that should have shimmered like stars. Instead, they looked dull, lifeless. Its large eyes stared at nothing, making no sound, showing no reaction to Raven's jaw tightened as she approached. "You sell?" The Kreshtok clicked in galactic standard, his mandibles spreading in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Depends on the price," Raven replied, her voice flat. The dealer gestured toward the cage with one of his lower arms. "Fresh stock. Solari cub, 6 standard months old. Fully empathic, undamaged. Perfect for household regulation or collection. 15,000 credits." "Undamaged," Raven repeated, her eyes never leaving the cub. "It looks half dead." The Kreshtok made a dismissive sound. "Subdued for transport. Standard procedure." Without warning, he grabbed the cub roughly, shaking it hard. The small creature's head snapped back and forth, and finally it let out a thin, keening wail. "See." The dealer shook the cub again, harder. Fully functional. The cry cut through the market, and something ancient stirred in Raven's chest. Something that had driven her species to survive ice ages and predators. Humans had climbed to the top of their food chain not because they were strongest, but because they protected those weaker than themselves. "I'll take it," Raven said quietly. The dealer's eyes gleamed. 15,000, 10, Raven interrupted. "It's damaged goods." "You said so yourself, subdued for transport." "How do I know it'll recover?" The Kreshtok hesitated, calculating. The cub continued to cry, a sound that was making other customers uncomfortable enough to avoid the stall. "Bad for business." 12,000, he countered. 10, or I walk, and you keep explaining to customers why you're torturing merchandise. The dealer's mandibles clicked in irritation, but he accessed his datapad. "Fine, 10,000. Raven transferred the credits, nearly emptying her accounts. The dealer reached for the cage, but Raven held up a hand. "I'll get it." She knelt, carefully unlatching the door. The cub, soul, according to sparse documentation, pressed itself against the corner, trembling. Raven slowly extended her hand, palm up. "Hey," she whispered. "You're okay now." Soul's huge eyes fixed on her, and even in their traumatized depths, Raven could see a flicker of hope. Carefully, she scooped the cub into her arms. Soul weighed almost nothing, all fragile bones and matted fur, burying its face against her jacket. "Pleasure doing business," the Kreshtok said, already turning to his next customer. Raven stood, cradling Soul against her chest. She made it 3 steps before the dealer's voice called out again. "Human, you forgot your documentation." She turned back. The dealer was holding out a datapad, but his posture had shifted, all 4 arms tensing in a way that Raven's 3 months of experience recognized immediately. Behind him, 2 more Kreshtok emerged from the shadows. Enforcers. This wasn't about forgotten paperwork. "Actually," the dealer clicked, "I think 10,000 was too generous. I'll need another 5,000, or the cub back." Around them, the market had gone quiet. Other vendors watched with calculated interest. No one intervened in Kepler 9. Raven looked down at Soul, who had stopped trembling, tiny paws gripping her jacket. She thought about the reports, about dozens of Solari cubs who disappeared each year, about the ones who survived trafficking only to spend their lives in cages. When she looked back up, her eyes were cold as vacuum. "No," she said simply. The dealer chittered in amusement. "Then we have a problem, human." "We do," Raven agreed. The enforcers moved forward. Raven shifted Soul to one arm, and her other hand moved to her hip. The plasma pistol cleared its holster smoothly, and before the first enforcer could raise his weapon, Raven fired. The shot cracked his chitinous armor. The second enforcer lunged. Raven sidestepped, using his momentum to slam him into the stall's support beam. The metal rang, and the enforcer collapsed. The dealer backed away, reaching for something behind his counter. Raven closed the distance in 2 strides, her hand closing around his throat. She lifted him slightly and slammed him against the cage that had held Soul. "You hurt children," she said softly. "You make them cry so customers know they're alive." The dealer struggled, but Raven's grip was iron. Around them, the market watched in frozen silence. No one had seen a human truly angry before. "Where I come from," Raven continued, her voice carrying through the market, "we have a word for people like you." She jostled him once, hard, his head snapping back against the bars. "This is what happens when you make a human choose between laws and what's right." She jostled him again, harder. Something in his exoskeleton cracked. His mandibles opened in a silent scream. Raven held him there, making sure every vendor, every customer understood exactly what they were seeing. Then she dropped him. The dealer crumpled, his breathing labored, segments of his thorax fractured. He'd live. Probably. Raven holstered her weapon and adjusted her grip on Soul. She turned to face the market. "Anyone else want to discuss the price?" Raven asked the silent crowd that no one answered. She walked through the market, past the stalls and staring aliens, into the legitimate sections of Kepler 9. Soul remained pressed against her chest, tiny heartbeat gradually slowing. "You're safe now," Raven murmured, stroking the cub's fur. "I've got you, Soul." Behind her, vendors would tell the story for years, about the human who bought a trafficked cub and made a dealer stop breathing when he tried to shake down the wrong species. They would tell it as a warning that humans were new to the galaxy. Yes, but that didn't make them prey to it made them unpredictable. And unpredictable was far more dangerous than strong.